Jeanne d'Arc alter and Arturia alter. When it comes to these two people, they do not get along with each other. In comparison to that, Jeanne d'Arc and Arturia do get along with each other. As for Jeanne d'Arc alter Santa Lily and Arturia Lily, no one have seen any interaction between the two, however, wonder what would happen. When Jeanne d'Arc alter sees something that would give her an idea on how to make Arturia alter mad. Jeanne d'Arc alter was walking through Chaldea's hallway, minding her own business. TCH. Can't believe that woman has got me earlier, one of these days, I'll get my revenge on her, but for now, I'm hungry. She thought as she was walking towards the cafeteria. However, as she arrived, she quickly hid herself to not make herself known. Because in the cafeteria, Jeanne d'Arc alter saw her enemy, Arturia alter, with someone next to her. And that person is Emiya Shirou. Well, what do we have here? She thought as she was looking at the interaction between Shirou and Arturia alter with interest. Meanwhile, Shirou was watching Arturia alter eating her 10th hamburger. Wow, when Arturia said that her alter version of herself is a junk food addict, she wasn't kidding. That's her 10th burger today. And she's still continuing, even with the fries as well. While Shirou was in his thoughts, Arturia alter snapped him out of them. Shirou, she said. What is it, Arturia? Shirou asked nervously. Call me alter, Shirou. Also, aren't you going to finish your burger? Shirou then looked down at his plate of burger and fries and realized that he hadn't even took a bite of it yet. Oh, he said before taking a bite out of it. Well? Arturia alter asked. It's delicious. I see. The two ate in complete silence. For a while, nothing extraordinary happened between the two. However, that's when Arturia alter did something that she wouldn't even do. Shirou. What is it, alter? Shirou asked as he turned around to see her holding a French fry in her hand. Eat this, she said. Shirou was surprised. Are you sure? Yes. Don't make me repeat myself. Now open wide. Shirou complied to Arturia alter's command and opened his mouth wide. He then grabbed the fry with his teeth and took the whole thing into his mouth. Well? Shirou smiled. It's delicious. Good. Shirou and Arturia alter then continued their meal. Eventually, they were done with their meals and Shirou took the dishes to the countertop and cleaned them afterwards. However, Arturia alter had one more thing to do with Shirou. Shirou. Come here, Arturia alter said. Shirou complied to Arturia alter's command and said, What is it, alter? As he came over to the table where Arturia alter was and sat at the chair he was earlier. It was then that Arturia alter placed him in a hug and didn't let go, making Shirou blush immediately. Alter? Shirou. Let me tell you this. You are my and my alternate version scabbard and queen. Therefore, by rule, you only belong to us. Not to Ishtar, her writer version, Ereshkigal, Parvati, BB, Passion Lip, Melt Lilith, King Protea, Astria, Nero and her alternate versions, or anyone else. Only us, she said as she hugged him even tighter. Alter. We won't leave you alone. She muttered. Shirou sighed as he knew he wasn't going to leave for a while. Okay. Little did they know that Jeanne d'Arc alter was watching the whole thing. So, the King of Knights has a queen, huh? Judging from what I saw, she has an affection for the servant over there. If that's the case, then I could use this to my advantage. It was then that Jeanne d'Arc started chuckling as she came up with a plan that its goal would be to make Arturia alter jealous and mad at the same time. Just wait, you woman, I'll be sure to make your life a living hell. She thought with a devilish grin on her face. The next day. Da Vinci, have you seen Shirou? Arturia alter asked. Shirou? Let me go check where he is right now, Da Vinci replied. After a few minutes on the communications center, Da Vinci got her answer. Shirou seems to be on a quest with Ritsuka right now. I see. Who are the party members? Well, there's Ritsuka-kun, Mashu, Shirou, and Jean Dark Alter. The last name Da Vinci said made Arturia Alter tense up immediately. What? She said. Yeah. Earlier, Ritsuka was going to do a quest earlier along with Shirou, and surprisingly, Jean Dark Alter wanted to join in as well, Da Vinci said. However, what Da Vinci didn't know was her words influenced Arturia Alter. Because not only someone else took Shirou away from her, but said person happened to be Jean Dark Alter, whom she hates. And she instantly knew why Jean Dark Alter did this out of the blue. Jean Dark Alter, how dare you take Shirou away from me? I swear, once you return, I will incinerate you with Excalibur Morgan. She thought angrily as she released an aura of bloodlust that was visible. Arturia Alter? Da Vinci asked while being scared at the same time. What? Arturia Alter asked, menacingly. Are you okay? You seem to be giving off a tremendous amount of bloodlust here, Da Vinci muttered. Arturia Alter noticed this and calmed herself down. It's nothing, she said. She then soon left the room, leaving Da Vinci alone in the room. Just you wait, Jean Dark Alter, you shall pay the price for stealing a king's treasure, and I intend to see the punishment go through. She thought angrily as she was walking out. Oh boy, I should have known that placing Shirou in the same party as Jean Dark Alter would have this type of effect on her. Maybe I shouldn't have done that earlier, Da Vinci thought. Da Vinci sighed as she now knew the mess she had unknowingly created. Shirou, Ritsuka, I pray that you survive when you return. Meanwhile, achoo. Shirou? Are you okay? Ritsuka asked. Yeah, I'm fine, Shirou said as he was rubbing his nose. Geez, was someone talking about me? Or am I catching a cold, he thought. Right now, Shirou along with Ritsuka, Mashu, and Jean Dark Alter were walking down a meadow, heading towards their destination. While they were walking towards their destination, Jean Dark Alter was staring at him the whole time. Geez, what is up with this servant? Since that woman has an affection of him, I thought he would be at least ruthless, but it turns out he's like master. What does what woman see in him? He doesn't seem like an interesting person. Meanwhile, Shirou was starting to notice the stare he was getting from Jean Dark Alter, and it was starting to creep him out. A master, why is the servant over there staring at me? HM? You mean Jean Dark Alter? Ritsuka said. If that is her name, then yes. Honestly, I'm not so sure either. Me too, Mashu said. However, their conversation was interrupted as Shirou sensed something incoming. Master! Enemies incoming! Yeah? Mashu exclaimed. As such, a bunch of enemy soldiers appeared out of nowhere from the bushes and prepared themselves for battle. Luckily, so was Ritsuka's group as well. Shirou. Mashu. Jean Dark Alter. Jean Dark Alter grinned. You don't have to tell me, master, she yelled out as she went ahead with Shirou following her while Mashu stayed behind to protect Ritsuka. As the fight began, Shirou and Jean Dark Alter split apart to fight the group of soldiers into two groups in separate locations. As such, Shirou and Jean Dark was able to reduce the level of danger Ritsuka was in. Eventually, the battles were over. Huh? That's it? TCH, I was expecting something better, but this, they're too weak, Jean Dark Alter moaned. Well then, time to check on my subject of interest. Jean Dark Alter then left her side of the battle to see what was going on with Shirou's side of the battle. As she checked the area where Shirou was, what she saw completely shocked her mind. There was blood everywhere. Literally, In Shirou's side of the battle, there were the corpses of dead soldiers covered in blood. Everywhere in the area was a bloodbath, as not only there were deep wounds on every soldier, but even the ground was colored red as well. Not only that, but some of the soldiers even had multiple copies of Kansho and Bakuya embedded in them. And in the middle of all of that was Shirou himself. Jean Dark Alter was appalled that he managed to kill all of them so easily. In a gruesome, yet beautiful way. And he didn't even get injured himself. Wow, to think that my subject of interest is able to do all of this, even I have never shed this much damage before, and this beauty, and those swords, I can see why that woman has affections for him. Soon Ritsuka and Mashu followed up afterwards, seeing where Shirou was. Like Jean Dark Alter, they were shocked at seeing the amount of carnage that was left around Shirou. "As Shirou?" Ritsuka asked. "HM? What is it, master?" Shirou replied. Are you okay, Shirou-san?" Mashu asked. "Yeah, anyways, shall we move on?" "Yeah," Ritsuka replied. And the group of four continued to their destination. Eventually night fell, so the group came to a stop and rest. As Ritsuka and Mashu fell asleep, Jean Dark Alter decided to say something to Shirou. "You know, you're pretty strong considering what you did to those enemies from earlier," she said. Shirou didn't say anything. "Hello, are you listening to me?" "HM? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about something," he replied. Jean Dark Alter let out a sigh. "Geez, this guy can be an airhead sometimes." For a moment, there was silence between the two until Jean Dark Alter asked him a question. "Emiya Shirou, what do you think of me?" "HM? What do you mean by that?" "You know, considering that I'm known as the Dragon Witch, you would probably think of me as a bad guy, right?" Shirou stayed quiet before saying an answer Jean Dark Alter did not expect. "No. I don't think of you as a bad guy." Jean Dark Alter was shocked before quickly regaining her composure and said, "How so?" "Because you were helping Master earlier, weren't you? Therefore, I consider you an ally," he said with a smile on his face. Jean Dark Alter quickly turned around after hearing those words. "I see. Jean Dark Alter? It's nothing. Just keep watch of Master." Shirou then watched over Master while Jean Dark Alter was having thoughts from earlier. "Emiya Shirou, you seem to be an interesting fellow." A few days later. "And, they're back," Da Vinci said. Soon, Shirou, Ritsuka, Mashu, and Jean Dark Ray shifted back into Chaldea's summoning room. As they landed on the altar, Shirou noticed a certain bloodlust aura in the room. And it was coming from Arturia Alter, who happened to be in the room. And she wasn't happy right now. "Shirou. What is it, Alter? Come here, now," she said in an authoritative tone of voice. Shirou proceeded to go to Arturia Alter's side, before being stopped by Jean Dark tugging his arm and hugging it, surprising Ritsuka, Mashu, and Da Vinci. On the other hand, Arturia Alter was not amused. Rather, she was pissed. "What are you doing, Jean Dark Alter?" Arturia Alter asked meaningfully. Jean Dark Alter grinned. "I've taken an interest in him, you see, and I want to learn more about him," she said with a smug grin on her face. "And what gives you the right to learn more about him?" "He is my queen." "Oh? So, he is your queen then? Then I hope you don't mind if I take him out for a bit." At that moment, Arturia Alter felt like pulling out Excalibur Morgan. "Don't you dare." Jean Dark Alter then did something she shouldn't have done in front of Arturia Alter. She started dragging him away from Arturia Alter, instantly making her mad. "Excalibur Morgan," Arturia Alter explained as she was preparing to unleash her noble phantasm while chasing after her. "Ha! Try and get me now." Jean Dark Alter thought as she was dragging Shirou around. Meanwhile, Ritsuka, Mashu, and Da Vinci looked at what just happened, and they were in shock. Did Jean Dark Alter just? Ritsuka muttered. Why yeah. She may have taken Shiro-san away from Arturia Alter. Mashu muttered as well. Oh boy, this is not going to end well. Da Vinci said. Meanwhile among the chaos, Shirou had one thought in mind. Why? Shirou was repairing something in one of Chaldea's room, minding his own business as he was fixing a portable heater that was broken earlier. Okay, all I have to do is to plug in the wire here, and there. That should do it. Now this should work. He thought as he tested the heater to see if it was working. He then turned the switch on and as luck would have it, it was working. Okay then, now to give this to Da Vinci. He talked to himself. As Shirou picked the heater up, he heard a voice call out to him. You seem to be having some trouble here. Do you need some help? The voice called out. Shirou turned around to see who the voice was, and the voice was from Jean Dark, who was standing at the doorway. You're Jean Dark Alter, right? Shirou asked. Jean Dark let out a smile. Sorry, but I'm afraid you had me confused for one of my sisters. Shirou was confused. One of your sisters? You mean Jean Dark Alter? Yes. Shirou was surprised. Wow, never have I thought that the original Jean Dark would refer to her alter as her sister, he thought as he was carrying the fixed heater. You sure that you don't need some help? Jean Dark asked. Yeah. I've used to carrying heavy objects like this before. He muttered. You seem pretty handy. If you don't mind, would you like to help me with something later? Shirou thought about it and said, well, I have nothing to do after this, so yeah. Jean Dark beamed in excitement. Yes. But first, I need to deliver this to Da Vinci first, Shirou reminded. Huh? Oh yeah. Shirou and Jean Dark then left the room and headed towards Da Vinci's workshop. As they were heading towards Da Vinci's workshop, Shirou noticed multiple servants passing by and whispering towards each other. Shirou sighed as he knew that rumors were going to spread later, but he put those thoughts behind him as he focused on carrying the repaired heater to Da Vinci's workshop. During the walk, Jean decided to talk to him. By the way, you're Emiya Shirou, correct? Shirou was stunned that Jean Dark knew him. Why yes. How did you know? Well, because one of my sisters. A few days ago. You know, you seem a bit different lately, little sister. Jean Dark Alter groaned. How so? She asked. Well, you seem to be a bit more lively than usual. Jean Dark Alter let out a sigh. It's nothing, I'll tell you. However, Jean Dark didn't seem convinced and was staring at her. What? Jean Dark Alter asked. Jean Dark had a smile on her face. You're interested in a person, aren't you? Jean Dark Alter scoffed. What? Why would you think that? It's nothing like that, she said. However, Jean Dark was still not convinced. Oh really? Yeah, she said, unaware of the danger she just placed herself in. If that's the case, then why don't you tell me then? Jean asked with a creepy smile on her face. Jean Dark Alter gulped as she saw that smile. Because as soon as that smile appeared, she knew that there was no escape. Back to the present. And that's how I knew about you, Jean said. Shirou gulped as he now knew how Jean Dark knew him. Geez, just what did Jean Dark do to her altered version, he thought as they were still walking. Eventually, Shirou and Jean found themselves at the front door of Da Vinci's workshop. Da Vinci. It's me, Shirou. I brought over the heater you requested for. Really? Da Vinci in her workshop. Yeah. After a few seconds of silence, the door to Da Vinci's workshop opened, revealing her. "So, I see that you have fixed the heater, huh?" "Yeah. Anyways, here you go," Shirou said as he gave her the heater. Da Vinci then took the heater out of Shirou's hands. "Thank you," she said before the door closed on them. "Now then, can you help me with something, Shirou-san?" Jeanne d'Arc asked. "Sure. What is it?" Jeanne took a deep breath before saying, "Just come to my room and you'll see." She then started to head in one direction of Chaldea with Shirou following her. Eventually, their walk ended up at the front door of Jeanne's room. Then Jeanne went into her room with Shirou following her. "Okay. So, what seems to be the problem that you're having?" Shirou asked. "Well, I need your help with mathematics," Jeanne said with hints of embarrassment. Shirou was dumbfounded. "Huh?" A few hours later. "And you need to carry over the two. Do you get it?" "Yes. I get it now," Jeanne replied. Shirou sighed as Jeanne was showing progress on her mathematics. As Shirou kept tutoring her on the math equations, his mind went back to what happened earlier. "Wow, I can't believe that Jeanne d'Arc is actually this bad at mathematics. I mean, I know she was illiterate, but this is crazy. Wonder if her altered counterpart is the same as well." Shirou-san?" Jeanne asked, snapping Shirou out of his thoughts. "HM? Oh, sorry, just gathering my thoughts, that is all," he said. "Anyways, can you solve the next problems on your own?" Jeanne nodded and then tried to proceed to solve the math equations on her own. After a few minutes, she was done with the equations and handed the worksheet to Shirou. "All done, Shirou-san." "Really? Did you double-check?" "Yes." "Well, let's see your progress," Shirou said as he scanned her answers to see if she got everything correct. After a few seconds of silence, Shirou was finally done with the answers. "Well?" Jeanne asked. Shirou smiled. "All correct." Jeanne let out a sigh of relief, but it was only temporarily. "Now then, shall we work on multiplication and division?" Jeanne gulped at the words multiplication and division. This was the worst part about mathematics she hated. And she was not ready for it. Shirou then had a worksheet of simple multiplication and division equations and gave it to Jeanne. As she looked at it, she was really confused and had her hands to her head. Shirou noticed her frustration and asked, "Need some help?" Jeanne sighed. "Yes, please." Soon, Shirou gave Jeanne a lesson on multiplication and division. During the lesson, Jeanne was in awe at how easily Shirou made a subject that she hated easy. Wow, to think that multiplication and division was this easy, Shirou-san does know his stuff, Jeanne thought. And that's how you solve the equation, and that's how multiplication and division works. Do you get it now, Jeanne? Yes. Shirou smiled. Then I suppose you're ready for the worksheet now? Jeanne nodded. Shirou then handed Jeanne the worksheet and Jeanne started working on it. As she was going through the questions, she found it much easier than before. These questions, I can do them, she thought excitedly. Eventually, she was done with the worksheet like the one from earlier, double-checked it, and handed it to Shirou for him to check. All done? He asked. Yes. Shirou then took the paper from Jeanne and gave it a hard look for a few minutes. Well? Shirou smiled. You pass. Jeanne raised her arms in both exhaustion and victory. Wow. Can't believe that's over. Thank you, Shirou-san. You're welcome, Jeanne. But seriously though, how did you figure something as difficult as this? Jeanne asked Shirou in wonder. However, Shirou was silent for a moment, making Jeanne confused. Shirou-san? Jean, I hate to break it to you, but this is elementary school level math. Even a kid would be able to understand it easily. Shirou muttered. Jean was in shock at what Shirou just said. Hi? Shirou-san. Shirou-san. Shirou turned around to see Jean Dark alter Santa Lily tugging on his cape. What is it, Jean Dark alter Santa Lily? Can you help me with something? Sure. What is it? Can you help me go shopping for something? Sure, but what is it for? Jean Dark alter Santa Lily gave him a huge smile. It's for my older versions of me. Older versions of you? You mean Jean Dark and Jean Dark alter? Yes. Is it for a special occasion? Shirou asked. Not quite. I just want to give them something nice. That is all, Jean Dark alter Santa Lily said happily. I see. Anyways, let's go. Jean Dark alter said as she pointed to one direction of Chaldea before heading off. Shirou then soon followed her. After minutes of walking, Shirou and Jean Dark alter Santa Lily ended in Chaldea's shopping area. Well, which shop shall we go? Shirou asked. How about that one? Jean Dark alter Santa Lily replied as she pointed at a souvenir shop. The souvenir shop? Yes. Alright then. Shirou and Jean Dark alter Santa Lily then went into the souvenir shop to see if there was anything to buy for Jean Dark and Jean Dark alter. As they went inside, they saw multiple items on display. Some were mugs, others were mystic codes disguised as clothes in various designs, others were sculptures, and many more. Inside the shop, Shirou and Jean Dark alter Santa Lily looked at every corner of the shop and every item to see which one was suited for Jean Dark and Jean Dark alter themselves. Which one would be good for my older versions of me? Jean Dark alter Santa Lily thought as she looked at every item to see which one was good for her, and Shirou was doing the same as well. As time passed, both Shirou and Jean Dark alter Santa Lily thought to leave the shop and find another one. Until Shirou saw something that caught his eye. Hey Jean Dark alter Santa Lily. How about this? Shirou asked. What is it? Jean Dark alter Santa Lily replied. This, he said as he pointed at an item. Jean Dark alter Santa Lily then turned around to look at the item Shirou was pointing. The item that Shirou was pointing was a snow globe of a miniature Pont du Gard. Inside the snow globe was a miniature Pont du Gard with a tiny landscape on the bottom. The tiny landscape itself was designed to look like a river with some rocks and trees on the side. Jean Dark alter Santa Lily looked at the snow globe in wonder. It's perfect, she said. Shirou smiled. Should we buy that one then? Yes. Shirou then grabbed 2 of the snow globes and brought it over to the countertop. He then paid for them and placed it in a bag. Okay. That should be it. Jean Dark alter Santa Lily smiled. Great. Now I can show these to my older versions of me, she said happily. The next day. Why do you think she called us here? Jean Dark alter said. I don't know. Do you think our little sister have something planned for us? Jean Dark replied. Who knows? I don't care. At that moment, Jean Dark alter Santa Lily came into the room, smiling with her hands behind her back. What do you have behind your back, little sister? Jean Dark asked. It better not be anything funny, or else I'll cremate you. Jean Dark alter said. Relax. What I'm about to give you isn't going to hurt you. Jean Dark alter Santa Lily said. Shen then handed them 2 gift boxes, one for each of them. Jean Dark and Jean Dark alter were confused by Jean Dark alter Santa Lily's action. What's this, little sister? Jean Dark asked. Jean Dark Alter, Santa Lily smiled. Open it up and you'll see. Both older Jeans then opened the gift boxes. As they opened them up, each of them has different feelings for what the gift was. For Jean, she was in marvel at the snow globe itself. For Jean Alter, she didn't seem to be interested in the snow globe and just stared at it. Well, do you like it? Jean Alter, Santa Lily asked. Jean Dark smiled at her little sister. I like it. Jean Dark Alter just looked at it. Well, it doesn't suit my tastes. That's all I have to say. Jean Dark Alter, Santa Lily, was in shock at what one of her older versions just said. You don't like it. But Shirou-san and I picked this for you. She muttered. After hearing that Shirou was involved in this, Jean Alter's mood completely changed. What? Jean Dark Alter, Santa Lily, sighed. Guess I'll have to give this back then. However, before she could take the snow globe from Jean Dark Alter's hands, Jean Dark Alter quickly stood up and was about to leave the room before being stopped by Jean. Little sister? Jean Dark asked. Jean Dark Alter huffed and said, this may not suit my tastes, but I'm not going to let you waste your money throwing this away, so I'm keeping it in my room. She then left the room in a hurry. Big sis, what just happened? Jean Dark smiled. Oh, nothing.